David Harel is having Yortzeit Leida Nishmas Chana Golda Bas Yisrael and Sima Bas Rivka Tzvi Dov Fushleim Tzvi Dov Ben Chaim Pesach and Yitzchak ben Sarah Devora Bas Yitzchak Avram and Mordechai David Reuven ben Shmuel and Shoshana Bas Elchanan Chana Golda Bas Yisrael Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chaim ben Fege, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rachel bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zalman Lei ben Moshe, Chaim Elyo ben Yosef, Amichai ben Yaakov, and Gedalia ben Tzvi Ruvain, Elimelech ben Levi Yitzchak, Leila Nishmatam. Today we're speaking about Yom Kippur, the original soul food. Now, if you look in the book of Ezekiel, before we get to our sheets, you look in the book of Yecheskel. Ephraim, you have a paper? You look at the book of Yecheskel. Yecheskel chapter 1 has a strange vision, the Meister Merkava, the divine chariot. And there it says, V'chayot rotza v'shav. It says the angels are called chayot, rotza v'shav. They're running and they're returning. Now, first of all, why are the angels called chayot? And they're running and returning. What does it mean? He had a vision seeing angels running and returning. What's the message? And why are the angels called chayot? Why tell us that they ran v'shav? So what's the message? My Rebbe would say, why are the angels called chayot? Even a person acts like a chaya, a wilde chaya. Rotza, he runs away from Judaism, v'shav. He can always what? Return. Yiddish Elisheva? Ezekiel chapter 1. He sees a mystical vision. Chayot, Rotza v'shav. The angels called wild animals. They're running and returning. So even if a person acts like a wilde chaya, how do you say that in English?
Wild animal.
Yeah, he runs away. V'shav, he can always what?
Come back.
Always come back. Always come back. All right? The chayot. Now, Reb Chaim Vital, the Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, not the Vilna Gaon, Talmud of the Ariya Kadosh, says something incredible. We're coming up to the Yom Hadin. The Ikar judgment of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, says Chaim Vital, is how we treat our wives. Ay, ay, ay. He says, because, why is the holiday called Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim? On Purim, Esther wore a mask, masqueraded. He says when we always put on a mask for people, we put on a show. Who sees us without the mask? The wife. Only your wife sees you without the mask. We wear a mask, Yom Kippurim. Ephraim, it's called a day like Purim, incredible. On Purim, Esther wore a mask. She masqueraded. We also masquerade, pretending to be who we're not. The only person that really sees you when your hair hangs down without the mask is what? Your wife. Talk about a human being. So therefore, the Ikar judgment is how a person treats his wife. Masha, you hear this? That's what my Rebbe Rapam Zatzal would say. On Erev Yom Kippur, you don't have to ask your wife for mechila. You have to beg her for mechila. Mechila. Pardon. Forgiveness. The Rebbe would say, beg her for mechila. Because your Ikar judgment is how you treat her. Ishta kigufa, she's the only one that sees you without your Purim mask. Get it? Now, the Zohar says something incredible. Rivka, it's incredible Zohar HaKadosh. I'm over 40. We can talk Zohar. The Zohar says, Moshe Rabbeinu nenash. Moshe was punished. Sheyitzia ishtai. He caused his wife suffering when he separated from her. Therefore, Vayikra El Moshe is written with a small aleph. Vayikra El Moshe, the book of Leviticus. God called to Moshe. The aleph is shrunken. Why is the aleph shrunken, Avraham? Says the Zohar HaKadosh. Because Moshe Rabbeinu caused his wife anguish when he left her, even though he had noble intentions. Since he caused her tsar when he separated from her, says the Zohar, therefore he was punished. And the word Vayikra Moshe is written with what? The Chama Yiddish, with a klein chika aleph. A small aleph. because he was Mitzayah, his wife, that he separated from her. So Vayikra Moshe is written with a small aleph. Vayikra, remember the book of Leviticus 1:1? The aleph is tiny. God shrunk it because he caused his wife anguish, Moses did, when he left her, even though he had noble intentions. Now,
doesn't seem like a big price to pay.
Well, to have your name shrunk, Vayikra, God called with a small aleph, and that's written down forever. So let's take a look of a great sage who didn't treat his wife properly and he paid dearly. Look at our sheets, please. This is from Tractate Ksubot. Anybody need a paper? Tractate Ksubot. Now, can a person leave his wife and go to Uman? Should we leave our wives for Rav Nachman? Who's more important, my wife or Rav Nachman, Avram? So actually the Talmud deals with that. Oh, didn't you know that? Can we leave our wives for Uman?
What's Uman?
What? Uman. Where Rav Nachman is buried in Ukraine. I don't have any more, I'm sorry. Please look in with your neighbors. Please look in with your neighbors. A strange Gemara here. See that top of the page? It's underlined in yellow, Elisheva. Can a person leave his wife to go study Torah without his wife's permission? Can you go to Uman without your wife's permission? Well, look what the Chachamim say. See, it's underlined in yellow. The sages say students may leave home to study Torah for 2 or 3 years, even without their wife's permission. Wow. But there's a big but there, Shelley. But the Gemara comments. You looking in? Omar Rava. The rabbinic students rely on Rav Ada's statement, but they act accordingly at the risk of their own lives. Ooh.
There, now we're talking.
Oh boy. What? They're playing with their lives if they leave their wives, even to go to Uman or for Talmud Torah. Look at the Gemara cites an example of a Torah scholar who followed the sage's ruling and paid with his life. This episode involving Rav Rechumi, strange name. What does Rechumi mean? From the word Rachamim. This was a mercy person. But Rivka, the word Rechumi means he had Rachamim only for what? Himself. Rechumi, Ephraim, looking in. Ki had Rav Rechumi. Rechumi means he had Rachmanis only for himself.
It's in yellow.
It's underlined yellow.
Quite rightly.
Right? Quite rightly. Under this great sage, Rechumi, should have had more Rachmanis for his wife, but he had Rechumi, for Rachmanis for himself, who attended Rava's lectures in Mechuzah. It was his practice to come home to his wife when? Once a year, Erev Yom Kippur. One day, Erev Yom Kippur, his studies engrossed him. He got so fatin in the sugya, Ephraim, that he forgot. He forgot to come home. His wife was looking out for him, saying, now he's coming, now he's coming. She was very disappointed, waiting for him to finally come home. They could share their Erev Yom Kippur meal together. He did not come. Chalash data. What does that mean? Chalash data. She became totally depressed. You hear this? And she began to cry. He broke her heart. You hear this? He broke her heart.
That doesn't like broken heart.
Be very careful. Do not make your wife cry. Very careful. Do not make your... Hello, Esther. Move in. Don't be shy. I don't have an extra sheet. Sonia, do you mind giving Harold the sheet and you can look in with Sharona? That's okay. I want you to. Thank you. You're looking together. So what happened? He made his wife cry. You hear this, Reb Tzvi? It's underlined in yellow. Please take a chair. There are plenty of chairs out there, no?
There's more space over here.
There's more space here. Vakasha. No charge. Just take the plastic chair in here. So this great Torah scholar, you hear this? He forgot to come home on Erev Yom Kippur, and he made his wife cry. At that moment, where was the husband? What the heck was he doing in an attic Erev Yom Kippur? Zisla, what the heck was he doing in an attic Erev Yom Kippur? What? He was hiding from his Rebbe. His Rebbe knew he was such a masmid, so his Rebbe would make him go home to your wife. So he hid, Esther hid in the attic. You hear this? Let's see, you have it underlined in yellow. He hid in the attic, so his Rebbe wouldn't force him to what? Go home. So he went up to the attic and he could with his Gemara. You hear this? The attic caved in and he dropped dead. He died.
There you go.
You hear this? And he died. Why was he sitting in an attic on Erev Yom Kippur instead of being home with his wife? Wow.
Yeah.
He ignored the biggest mitzvah in Odom Lechavero is v'ahavta re'acha kamocha, to love your friend as yourself. Who is your friend? Your wife. He ignored that mitzvah. He couldn't tear himself away from the Gemara. What's more important than the Gemara? Your wife. Who said that? What a powerful story, Rabbi Ephraim. You have the sheets in front of you. He was too involved with the other woman. Who's the other woman?
Torah.
The Torah. Ooh, you guys are ahead of me today.
We're all
Too involved with the other woman. Wow. So he paid with his life. Yom Kippur does not atone for sins between what? Man and his fellow man, especially man and his wife.
But she paid for it too.
Oh, a good question. What? She paid for it too, right? Yeah. She'll find somebody better.
Yeah, no matter how many.
She'll find somebody better, right?
May still not work.
Dafke what?
Some of them leave the wife alone, and that's having Rahmanis.
But this guy was called Rechumi. Yehuda, you know Hebrew, Rechumi. He had Rahmanis for what? Himself. Should have had more Rahmanis for what? For his wife, unfortunately.
So I'm still missing what this is.
Not to leave your wife.
Going to Uman is not learning Torah.
Well,
No, but you go in there and leave it.
you're going to daven, right? Right?
And it's important to be the family. What's
Right.
A good man is
But-
just hard to find, right?
Right, but some people, they ignore their wives for Uman or for Torah study. Your wife comes first. What a powerful Gemara here, that your wife always comes first, right? It's just incredible. Rabbi Wein, I wouldn't repeat this, let's heard it from Rabbi Wein. Rabbi Wein says, in pre-World War II Ukraine, the vast majority of Jews never wished to visit Uman and never did. Rabbi Wein says in pre-World War II Ukraine, the vast majority of the Jews who lived in Europe never wanted to visit Uman and never did. So I don't know, but I expect a lot of people there today, right? I mean, coming, right? But anyway, the Iker bein Adam lechavero. How do you say that in English? Between and it's right. That's the Iker of Yahadut. The Iker is bein Adam lechavero. That is the Iker. Achi chashuv. The Vilna Gaon says that, and Rabbeinu Yonah, the primary goal of the Torah is to give simcha to a fellow Jew. The primary goal of the mitzvot of the Torah is to make a fellow Jew happy. You know, there should be a gemach. There's a gemach for this, a gemach for that. There should be a gemach Sharona for smiles. You know what a gemach is? A Gemilas Chesed Fund. There should be a gemach for smiles. You know, smiles, there is no gemach for smiles.
There is one. They were passing out these little things that just smile and saying
It doesn't cost no money to smile. You know, some people, they're like constipated. It doesn't cost money to smile. You smile on somebody, you're giving him the best matana in the world. The Gemara in Tainus, page 22, says that if you make a fellow Jew laugh, you're a ben olam haba. You're a ben olam haba. Giving joy to a fellow Jew, you're a ben olam haba. Which reminds me of a story. Now, all my stories are true, but some didn't happen yet. You know, there was a hurricane in Florida, you know. So Mrs. Goldberg, she left Florida because her home was destroyed, and she flew to India to consult the guru. What to do, you know, to collect some insurance. And she wanted to see this guru. They said, lady, there's a 6 months waiting period. You can't see the guru at a drop of a hat. Go back to Florida, put your name on a list, we'll call you in 6 months. She says, no, I insist, I must see the guru in India. It's super important. He says, lady, I'm sorry, you can't see him. 6 months waiting list. She breaks away from the guard, and she runs into the palace. She says, Jaime, you must come home. Nobody blows shofar as good as you. Get it, Jaime?
Yeah.
He's a great shofar blower, right?
We know.
So anyway, the ikar is how we treat ben adam lechaver. And the Rambam says something incredible. Rav Soloveitchik makes this diuk. I'm sure Rabbi Yitzchak would love this diuk. He says when it comes to sins between man and God, you confess, Ona Hashem chatasi lefanecha. Rabbi Yitzchak's going to like this. The Rav Soloveitchik makes this diuk in Hilchas Tshuva. When you sin against God, the vidu is, Ono Hashem, please God, chatasi lefanecha. I have sinned in front of you. But when you sin against God, you really cannot affect Him. You eat a cheeseburger, is He affected? Sin between man and God cannot affect God. You can only hurt what? Yourself. So therefore, the vidu, how do you say vidu in English? The confession, chatati lefanecha. The Rambam is so exact with his words. I have sinned in front of you, but you're not affected. But achote lechavero, hope you're writing this down. So the Rambam, achote lechavero, when you sin against a fellow human being, umet chavero, and his friend died, you have to go to the cemetery and you say, chatasi lashem ulaploini. Yiddish Yehuda? When you sin against God, it's chatasi lefanecha. I've sinned in front of you. But sinning against God, being Mechala Shabbos, you're not affecting God, you're only hurting yourself. But the Rambam says when you sin against a fellow Jew and you confess to him, you say, Chatasi Lashem Ulaploini. Why Lashem? You hurt the fellow Jew. Yeah. And it doesn't say Chatasi Lashem. So when you upset and sin against a fellow human being, you are what? Upsetting God. Look, incredible language. Chatasi Lashem, I've sinned to God. Ulaploni. Who's Laploni? John Doe. But first you say, I've sinned against God. Because every time you hurt a fellow human being, you're also hurting God.
Does he have to be dead to confess?
No.
Oh, you said no. You said
No, then you go to the cemetery. If he's alive, you say it to him. But even if he's dead, you go to the cemetery, you say, Chatasi Lashem, Ulaploni. Because there's a pasuk that we read in yesterday's Torah, Rivka, called Tzarasam Lo Tsar. When a Jewish person is in tsar, who suffers with him? God suffers along. Yesterday's Torah. And King David says, Imo Yanochi B'tzara. So when you hurt a fellow Jew, you're also upsetting God, which is not true when you eat a ham sandwich. You're only hurting yourself. Wow. That's how far the Ben Adam Lechavero. Ben Adam Lechavero. Yes. And Yom Kippur doesn't help, but Adam Lechavero and Kippur doesn't help. Right? If you don't apologize, Yom Kippur ain't going to help you. Yom Kippur only helps sins between man and God. Between man and man, Yom Kippur is not going to help you.
the first part about the husband and the wife.
Right?
Does that work in reverse as well?
Of course. Ishtaki Gufa.
The wife wants to go to Uman.
Well, if the wife wants to go to Uman and leave her husband, right?
Not very likely.
You remember Henny Youngman? He says, take my wife. Please take her. Or he also said, I took my wife on a trip where she's never been before. I took her to the kitchen.
So I have a question.
Henny Youngman. What?
You said before
Yes.
that it's a mitzvah, that somebody brought down it was a mitzvah to make a Jew laugh.
Not me, the Vilna Gaon and Rabbeinu Yonah. The tafkid, let me repeat it, the tafkid of the mitzvahs of the Torah is to make a fellow Jew happy.
Okay, so now,
Wow.
if you tell a joke that's depreciatory of somebody and somebody laughs at it, is there
Not at somebody else's expense. My jokes
It's
are...
a joke about, your wife hasn't been to the kitchen. It's a negative
That's a
comment
joke.
about wife.
It's a fiction. I didn't mention nobody's name.
It's derogatory.
Right.
For all of the wives,
You've got
we're
a good
not
point.
supposed to
You have a
get
good,
upset.
you have a good point.
Not
You
if
have
you
a
live in
good
the
point.
kitchen.
You shouldn't tell jokes that depreciate it.
Okay, I shouldn't tell Henny Youngman jokes, okay? Okay, you're right.
Point is wrong.
Okay.
And you're right.
All right, I'll tell you a Rodney Dangerfield joke. He said, I get no respect. I get no respect. When I was born, I was so ugly, the doctor slapped my mother.
That's right. I actually heard him say that.
His real name was Yaakov Cohen, by the way.
And that's not funny.
Okay, well, people laughed. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So anyway, Yom Kippur's magic moment is the Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre is Yom Kippur's magic moment. Right? We annul vows. There are worse sins than breaking your word. Why do we begin the Day of Atonement with annulling vows? There are worse sins than breaking your word. Why is that so important, Kol Nidre? So the Zohar Kodesh says something incredible. Any sin that you do, you're also breaking your vow. Because we all vowed Nasa v'nishma. We all accepted the Torah. Even we were not there in the body, our spirit was there. All of the neshamas were there. So we all said Nasa v'nishma. That's a vow. We were there in body or in spirit. So every time you do any Aveira, says the Zohar, you also what? Breaking your vow. Because we all vowed that we will Nasa v'nishma, will accept the Torah. So therefore, we begin the tshuva process with what? With Kol Nidre. Because every sin you do, you also broke your vow. You promised to keep the Torah. And the Torah says about Yom Kippur, V'initem et nafsho teichem. You shall afflict your soul on Yom Kippur. Now, Rav Soloveitchik says it's very strange because the soul is not afflicted. The soul, Avram couldn't care less about macaroni and cheese, right? What's afflicted? The guf. You should have said, V'initem et aguf shalachem. You shall afflict your body. It says, V'initem et nafsho teichem. You shall afflict your soul. Reb Tzvi, the soul couldn't care less about what? Spaghetti and meatballs, right? How come it says, V'initem et nafsho seichem and not V'initem et haguf? The body is afflicted, not the soul. So the Ramchal says something incredible. The word v'initem, which means afflict, also means to sing. Say what? If you look in Deuteronomy 26, in Pashas Kitova, we just read it. When Farmer Goldberg brings his fruits to the Beis Hamikdash on Shavuos, v'anita v'yamarta, the Barbanel says he has to sing the praises of Eretz Yisrael.
Wow.
When you bring your Bikurim, v'anita v'yamarta, Deuteronomy 26, the farmer has to sing the praises of Pisgat Zev. So it's strange, the word v'anita and the word v'anitem, it's the same root, and they have to have opposite meaning. It means to sing, and it also means what? To afflict. Now in Hebrew, when you have one word with opposite meanings, they have to have what, Rabbi Yamin? A connection.
Well, if you sing badly enough.
You sing badly enough, boy, you're afflicted. If you sing off key, Esther, you're pretty afflicted. I like that. So how can one word have opposite meanings? The Ramchal says something incredible. He says, V'initem et nafsho seichem, your neshama shall sing. I'm a soul man. Yom Kippur is the original soul food. On Yom Kippur, we forget about what? The body. I'm not my body. I ain't got no body. I mean, you ask a person to point to himself. Most people will point to their heart. But let's say if you have a heart transplant, will you still point to your heart? You ask a person, point to himself, will point to his chest. But if you have a heart transplant, you wouldn't point to you, it's not your heart. So the point I'm making is that a person is not his bodysuit. Don't confuse me with my bodysuit. I'm a godly soul. But the godly soul is dressed in the vehicle called the body in order to accomplish a mission. But Yom Kippur is one day a year where I forget about the bodysuit. And I concentrate, Shirley, I'm a soul man. Don't confuse me with my bodysuit. The bodysuit wears out, but the godly soul remains what? Eternal. So Nitem es nafsho seichem, says the Ramchal. On Yom Kippur, you shall allow your neshama to sing. How do you allow the neshama to sing? By afflicting the body. When the body is afflicted, but you don't eat and you don't drink, you're giving the neshama the spotlight. All year, Avram, the neshama takes a back seat. Who cares about the neshama? You know, I'm too busy feeding my face, feed me, and all the high-tech gadgets, right? The smartphones and the dumb phones. Who thinks about the neshama? So a person might think he is the body. That's him. One day a year, v'initem et nafshotechem, you shall let the genie out of the bottle, nechama. Let the neshama sing.
Wow.
How do you let the neshama sing?
By inflicting your-
By ignoring the goof. By ignoring the goof, you acknowledge that I'm much more than my body. The soul couldn't care about taking a shower, couldn't care less about eating or drinking. That's for the body. But I'm much more than my body. I'm a soul man. So the initem es nafsho seichem, the salvation of the neshama, when the body is afflicted, the neshama pays her dues down here. Wow. Now, Yom Kippur comes out on Shabbos. Are you allowed to fast on Shabbos, Avram? No. So yet this Shabbos we're going to be, not Shabbos Yom Kippur, we'll be fasting. So the Rambam does something amazing. He says, Mitzvah saseh lishbot machila v'shtia. He said there's a positive mitzvah on Yom Kippur to rest from eating and drinking. What do you mean? You should have said there's a positive mitzvah to what? To afflict your body on Yom Kippur, don't eat. He says there's a positive mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking. What do you mean to rest from eating and drinking? What's the Rambam telling me? That eating and drinking is a burden for what? For the soul. The soul couldn't care less about the food. So on one day a year, there's a positive mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking. It's not an affliction. The neshama gets a chance to sing. One day a year, Rachmiel, she says, give me the spotlight. I'm a soul man. The rest of the year, who thinks about the neshama? Yom Kippur is the day of the soul. It's R&R for the soul. To treat the soul to rest and relaxation. To let the neshama shine one day a year. How do you do that? By ignoring the body, not afflicting the body or ignoring the body. Eating and drinking gets in the way. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, the Rambam says it's a mitzvah to rest from eating and drinking. The Kotzker Rebbe says something amazing. He says, on Tisha B'Av, you're so broken, so depressed, who can eat? You're thinking about the Churban Beis Hamikdash. How could you eat? You lose your appetite, you're depressed on the Churban. On Yom Kippur, you're so joyful, who has to eat? You're soaring with God, right? You're uniting with your source. You hear this, Yehuda? Who has to eat on Yom Kippur? On Tisha B'Av, who can eat, says the Kotzker, and Yom Kippur, who has to eat? I'm a soul man. It's incredible. Loyaleni, when a relative dies, you tear the clothes. Why do you do that? So, Pi Kabbalah, it's a great nechama. It's a great nechama. Nechama, you listening? When you tear your shirt, when my parents died and my brother died, I tore my shirt. Is the shirt me? Rabbi Yaakov, is the shirt me? It's only what? A garment. So when my dear relatives died and their bodies were broken, was it them? It's only their garment. Just like the garment, the torn garment is not me. It's only what? A garment. So when my relatives died, their bodies were torn. It wasn't them. It's only what? Their garment. The godly soul keeps moving on up. Yom Kippur is one day that I forget about my garment, my spacesuit, and I concentrate on what? On who I really am. Who am I? I'm a godly soul. I'm eternal. I'm a piece of the rock. And this week's Parsha, Reb Yaakov, this week's Parsha. Hatzur Tamim Pa'oloi. God calls himself what? The rock. We're all a piece of the rock. And therefore, when you go to a cemetery, Loyalain, you put a rock on the kever. Why do you put a rock on the kever? Why do you do that for? You know what Mekima said? My relative is not 6 feet under. That's just his spacesuit. Where is he? With a rock. That's why you put a rock on Matzeva on a grave. Deuteronomy 32, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls himself the rock. Lean on me, solid as a rock. So that's a great nechama. You put a matzeva made out of rock, and you put a rock there, reminding yourself that my dearly beloved is not there. That's just a spacesuit. He is with a rock. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls himself in this week's Parsha, Hatzur, Tamim Pa'olo. And we all are what? A piece of the rock. All of us. So we have to do tshuva, right? That's what it's all about. We have to do tshuva. Tshuva consists of 4 steps. Number 1, you have to physically stop sinning. Number 2, vidui bepeh. What do you say that in English? Oral confession. Number 3, busha charata. A person has to have shame and regret for past mistakes. And number 4, a kabbalah, not to do that sin again. Not to do that sin again. So tshuva, we reinvent ourselves, Yehuda, or we rejuvenate. We rejuvenate ourselves. If you do tshuva me'ahava, the sin actually becomes what? Let's see, it's incredible. You do tshuva me'ahava, the sin actually becomes a mitzvah. That's just incredible. You can take an aveira and turn it into what? A mitzvah. Tshuva me'ahava, it's mind-boggling. A Jew can what? Reinvent the past. Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev, the famous tzaddik of Berditchev, he approached the town ganef and drunk, and he said, I envy you. He says, Rebbe, you envy me. I'm a drunk, a ganef, a thief. What do you envy me for? He says, because you have so many sins. If you do tshuva mehava, all of your sins will what? Become mitzvahs. You'll be better than me. He said, let me wait till next year. I'll have even more sins. Get it? I'll have even more sins to convert to mitzvahs. Gee, but it doesn't work like that, right? Tshuva means today is the first day of the rest of your life. Right? Tshuva means to what? To reinvent. Everybody makes mistakes. The pasuk in Mishlei, Sheva Yipol Tzadik. The Tzadik will fall 7 times, which means many in Tanakh. Why is he called a Tzadik? Because he keeps getting up. He doesn't fall into despair. If a person falls into despair, then it doesn't matter what he does. But the tafkid of a Jew, even though I fall, I'm not going to give up. If at first you don't succeed, you try again. You keep trying. Now, the Mishnah says, Eze Oshia Sameach Bechelko. Who is considered rich? Somebody that's happy with what? With his lot. Right? Yeah, you're happy you don't have to have a smartphone, the XXX, whatever it's called there, the new Apple phone for $1,000. Right? You have a dumb phone is also good. That's true, Reb Tzvi, that's true in what? In material matters. But someone to be happy with his spiritual lot? Who said greed is good? Who said greed is good? Right? When is greed good? When it comes to physical possessions and materialism, greed is bad. But when it comes to what? Spiritual possessions, Reb Ephraim? There you have to be greedy.
Yeah.
Greed is good. to be more what? Spiritual, to do more mitzvot. When it comes to spiritual matters, there's no status quo. There's no coasting. Yaakov had a dream of a ladder. In a ladder, Rabbi Ephraim, nobody takes a coffee break in a ladder. In a ladder, you either what? Going up or going down. So spiritual matters, if you're not climbing up the ladder, you're automatically what? Climbing down. That's just incredible. You cannot rest on your laurels, no matter how great you are. The Jewish people, in the 40th year in the desert, committed sexual immorality with the wild Moabite women. Avram, how could that be? 40 years after seeing all of the miracles of the splitting of the Red Sea, the mun, the quail, the magic water from the rocks, seeing the clouds of glory, Ephraim, 40 years. Vayeshev Yisrael Bashittim, the Jewish people dwelt in a place called Shittim. They began to commit sexual immorality with the Moabite women. How could that be? These were spiritual giants. So the Talmud Megillah says Vayeshev Yisrael Bashittim. What does Vayeshev mean? To set in your ways, to rest on their laurels. We steiged enough. Take it easy for a while. Comes to spiritual matters, the greater a person is, if he's not continuing to progress spiritually, then what? The bigger you are, the harder you fall. Since these people in the Midbar were so great, after seeing 40 years of such great miracles, David, that when they began to stagnate, they committed the worst sins with the wild Moabite women. When it comes to spiritual matters, a person cannot rest on his laurels. If you're not progressing, you're regressing. And the greater you are spiritually, the greater you are, the harder you fall, yes?
Another lesson there, because the people who had denied,
Right.
the ones who sinned 40 years later wasn't them, it was their children.
Okay, so, but they grew up. Where did they grow up?
It's an educational part.
They weren't, the Moshe and Aaron were the Rosh Koilel. Moshe, Aaron, the Rosh Koilel, no?
There's only, what, a handful left, Moshe and Aaron, Yoshua.
Yeah. But this is a new generation. They could, after,
Children of the guys.
so didn't they learn the Moshe Aaron's cheder? But the Talmud says, it says, Vayeshev Yisrael. Vayeshev means to grow complacent. In spiritual matters, if you grow complacent, you're vulnerable to what? To spiritual degradation. And that's what happened to these people. So we have to what? Improve ourselves. We have to become more spiritual. And what does that mean? To become more spiritual. All right? Do I only think about myself? I'm like Rabbi Rechumi. He was a great man, Yehuda. Was he spiritual? But he only had Rahmanas for himself. That's not Judaism. Judaism, you have to think about the other, especially your spouse. That's spiritual matters. Someone else's Gashmias is my Ruchnias. Who said that? It's Sol Salanta, right? Someone else's Gashmias is my Ruchnias. So who am I? Am I working to what? To become a better person? Or am I only concerned about what? Myself. So that's what these days are to think about. That's what these days are to think about. And the Mishnah says, in the way a person wants to go, he's led. Right? He's led in that, right? Every person is led in the direction that he wants to what? That he wants to go. Now, we said that tshuva consists of 4 steps. Abandoning the sin. If you don't leave the disco, what good is it? Vidui b'peh, oral confession. Shame and regret for past sins. And Kabbalah, how do you say that in English? Accepting upon yourself, what? Not to do that sin again. 4 steps of tshuva. But then there's a very strange Rambam, Yiddish Reb Tzvi. The Rambam says the Hilchos Ishus. Someone says to a woman, Harei at mukadeshes li, you are married to me, almanas shani tzaddik, on the condition that I am what? A tzaddik, afilo rosha gomor mukadeshet. You understand this? A guy walks over to a woman, he's dating a woman. He says, you are betrothed to me on the condition that I am a tzaddik. Even though we know he's a rasha, the woman is mukadeshes, mazel tov. Why? So the Rambam says, Shema hira tshuva beliboy. Perhaps he did tshuva in his heart. Shema. Perhaps he did tshuva in his heart. But tshuva consists of 4 steps. Abandoning the sin, oral confession, charata busha, verbal commitment not to do it again. This guy didn't do any of that. We know he's a Rasha Gomor. He just left a Big Mac stand. He just wiped his mouth after finishing a cheeseburger. And he walks over to a woman and he says, you are married to me, his girlfriend, on the condition that I'm a tzaddik. How can he be a tzaddik? He just gave a greps after a cheeseburger. How do you say greps? He just burped after the cheeseburger. Mukadesh says, mazel tov. What about the 4 steps of the tshuva, Masha?
Yeah, what about it?
What about it? I'm glad you asked that. So Rav Pam Zatzal said something incredible. The decision to change. He just finished the cheeseburger. He didn't do any of those other steps that you have to do. But asimo nofel. How do you say that in English? Asimo nofel? The penny dropped. What? The asimo nofel. After he burped after the cheeseburger, the penny dropped. He made a decision to change. He planted the seed. I want to change my evil ways. Once he made that decision, he could already be called a tzaddik. Isn't that incredible?
Incredible.
He made a decision. He made 2 decisions. He made the decision to change, and he made the decision to get married.
And if she says no,
Now, if nothing, we said, if she says no, of course nothing
It
happens.
would be the first time.
But she said yes. She said yes.
she have to say yes.
Of course, if she doesn't say yes, there's no marriage. You know that. You cannot get married or divorce your wife without her consent. Right? So that's the whole problem with a lot of agunas. The husband wants to give and the wife doesn't want to accept. She's also black. But it happens the other way too. She blackmails him. That you don't hear too much about. But anyway, Rapam explained the decision to change. He planted the seed, even though he didn't do the steps yet. But he made a commitment, a sincere, genuine commitment that I want to change my evil ways. In God's eyes, he's already what? On his way to be a tzaddik. Amazing. But it's more than that. He also proposed marriage. He also proposed marriage.
Sounds very familiar, Rabbi.
Marriage in Hebrew is called nisuin.
Yeah.
David, why is marriage called nisuin? The Zohar says from the word noseh avon. What does noseh avon mean? God lifts off sin. So the Zohar says when you get married, noseh avon. It's called nisuin because when a person gets married, all of his sins are what? Forgiven. Masha, hocus pocus. Why, when you get married, your sins are forgiven? Noseh avon, your sins are lifted off. Therefore, marriage is called nisuin. Why is that? Why is that? But so what? It's not hocus pocus. The Talmud says in Rosh Hashanah, Kol ha'marvi al midosav. Someone who's forgiving and lenient. Someone wrongs him. Someone shames him. Someone is nasty to him. And he lets go. All of his sins are forgiven. Even without tshuva. You have a lover's quarrel. One spouse ranks out the other one. She washes the floor with him. And he says, yes, my dear, how can I help you? That guy got a ticket to ride to Gan Eden without tshuva. Should I repeat that? Huh? The Talmud Rosh Hashanah 17 says, whoever is Mavri al Midosav, someone insults him, ranks him out, and he is forgiving and, what's the word? Fakuken. How do you say in English? Fakuken, fakiken. Overlook. Right? Forgiving and forbearing. So all of his sins are forgiven even without the 4 steps of tshuva. So, lovers quarrel. And one spouse embarrasses and ranks out the other. And you can control yourself and what? Say, thanks, dear, I needed that. You've got it made in the shade, Ephraim, even without tshuva. So this guy proposed marriage. He's willing to be what? Marvel Medosav. In order to make a happy marriage, you have to give up to the other. You have to give up. The Talmud says in Sota, it's difficult for a marriage to work like splitting of the Red Sea. Avram, what does A got to do with B? Sota, page 2. It is difficult for a marriage to be successful as for God to split the Red Sea. What does, Maddie, A got to do with B? The Red Sea parted. It went against its nature. The sea doesn't part, right? It went against its nature, right? For a marriage to be successful, each one has to part for the other one. Each one has to go against his nature. It's called vatran. You have to part and make way for the other. And if you're able to do that, your sins are forgiven even without the 4 steps of tshuva. Isn't that incredible? Wow. Easier said than done, right? When your wife ranks you out and makes a schmat out of you, you want to answer back. But if you don't, and you bite your tongue and you smile at her,
It makes her more angry.
Makes her very angry. Very frustrated.
I got to tell you this story of the Baal Shem Tov's granddaughter. She married this Hasidic Rebbe, Avraham. They were very poor. So she brought into the wedding her grandfather's tefillin. She gave her grandfather's tefillin to her husband, the Rebbe, as a nadin, right? But he didn't need it because he had his own tefillin. And they're very poor. They have no money. It's Erev Sukkos, and he has to buy an esrog. To get an esrog, Ephraim, in Europe, to get an esrog, you got to pay a lot of money. He had no money. But what did he have? He had the present that his wife gave him as a wedding present, the Baal Shem Tov's tefillin, which he didn't need because he had it. So what happened? He pawned the tefillin and he bought this beautiful esrog. The Rebbetzin comes home from the shuk, shopping, her meager shopping. She's this gorgeous esrog on the table. She knows they ain't got no money, honey. She said, the Rebbe, where did you get this gorgeous esrog? We hardly have money to buy food for the yontiv. So I'll tell you, sweetheart. You know that tefillin you gave me, the Baal Shem Tov's tefillin for the wedding present, you know I didn't need it. So I pawned it and I bought what? The esrog with it. She said, what? How dare you? You took my Zaydes, Baal Shem Tov's tefillin and sold it to buy an esrog? She grabbed the esrog, she bit off the pitim and threw it on the ground. You hear this, Abraham? Now, he ain't got no tefillin, and he ain't got no esrog. So she thought he's going to give her a mishaberach, right? You remember Abraham and Ralph Cramden? Bang, zoom. Pow, to the moon. He kissed her. So she fainted. He kissed her, Reb Tzvi. She was expecting what? Pow, to the moon, Alice. Or at least a mishaberach. He kissed her, and she fainted. Then he brought the fan and he woke her up there. You know what he said? He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I lost my tefillin and I lost my esrog, but I will not lose my temper. Shirley, he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I lost my tefillin and I lost my esrog. I will not lose my temper.
That's good.
That night, you near the end of the story, who comes to him in a dream? The Baal Shem Tov. How'd you guess? He says, Rebbe, you have no idea how God is so pleased with what you do. You don't need to buy no more esphik for the rest of your life. You never need an esphik for the rest of your life. You're on the highest level of Olam Haba. You'll be able to be koivish your kas and to give your wife a kiss, almost give her a heart attack. You never need to buy any esphik for the rest of your life. The Baal Shem Tov from the other side is testifying how God was so pleased with him. So, easier said than done. Husband and wife say things to each other, right? The best part of breaking up is making up. These days, Kodesh Baruch Hu is the Chassan, we are the Kala. We have a lover's quarrel. During these days, we have to what? Kiss and make up. Kiss and make up, right? So, according to Chaim Vital, the Iker, again, we began this year. You heard the Iker judgment on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah of Chaim Vital says is how you treat your wife. You ladies got a maid in the shade, what? What? So, tshuva begins, ben odam lechavero. And who's your best chaver? Your spouse. Right? Powerful message. I want to wish everyone ksivach sima tova, shana tova metuka. Not enough shana tova. Because whatever God does is what? Good. But the good also has to be what? Sweet. The Baal Shem Tov, Chofetz Chaim says, whatever God does is good. Medicine is always good, but it could be bitter. Not enough to be good. Whatever he does is good. It also has to be what, Abraham? Sweet.
Tell him to wish him Chag Sameach, like you said, also it's a Chag.
It's also a Chag, right? Rosh Hashanah is a Chag. So we meet again next year, Abraham. Next year we meet. Next Sunday, please come. It's my father's yahrzeit. So I'm doing a double header. We have a shir at 2 o'clock next Sunday. 2 o'clock shir is called The Scapegoat. The devil made me do it. Get it? And at 4 o'clock, Yona's castor oil plant. 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. A double header. A lot of good Torah and a lot of good new jokes. So Shana Tova Metukat next Sunday, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Thank you.